Teenagers can come up with some pretty crazy ideas, but building a house in a church basement? A real house? The idea wasn't so far-fetched for youth at First United Methodist Church in Elgin, Illinois. Soon they'll be trekking their newly constructed home 550 miles to Joplin, Missouri, where it will be replacing one destroyed by a devastating 2011 tornado. For more, let's welcome Keith Duncan, First United Methodist Church's youth director, Sarah Hansen, a sophomore at Larkin High School, and Eli Broxham, a freshman at DePaul University. Who came up with the idea? How did this all come about at First United Methodist Church?
Well, we had been down to Joplin a couple of times after the tornado, and we did a lot of cleanup debris the first time we were down there. And then we came back in October of that same year and re-sided a lady's house. And then we came back the following summer and did all kinds of construction work. We re-electrical wired a house, some fine work, staircase, and that kind of thing. And then we said, you know, we really want to come back and do something meaningful. So we said, well, why don't we just build one of these things? And of course, I didn't have any expertise on that. I barely can swing a hammer. But some of the other guys that we were with, had that confidence, and we said, yeah, we could do that. So that's how we came up with this idea.
So is this a common thing? Do people regularly construct homes within another building, or is this sort of something that really just came out of nowhere for you guys?
Yeah, this is a completely original thing. There's nobody that does this. There's a lot of groups that will build a house from scratch, and there were a lot of groups when the last time we were down there that was doing that, but nobody does something like this.
Okay.
But the reason why we wanted to do this is because when we go down there, we'll be there for 1 week. We couldn't do all of what we've got done now in 1 week, so we decided that if we could spend 3 or 4 months getting everything ready to go, then when we go down there for a week, we just assemble it and we'll be ready to go.
Sarah, I'm kind of curious about your experience with all this. When you first heard of this idea, or maybe you and the other kids in the youth group first heard this idea, what did you guys think of it?
Well, we weren't too surprised. Like we've done crazy things before, like with all the Joplin trips.
What have you been learning about mission and about kind of faith and mission because most people, kind of like what Keith was saying, go for a week and do something in a packaged form in that sense, where there's a clear beginning and end. But it seems like this has been an ongoing project. So what has that sort of shown you about the life of faith?
Just that it doesn't have like a set starting and stopping point. Like most kids would think, like a mission trip is just for 1 week and then you can just go home back to your normal life.
You have a really unique role with this. I mean, most of the time when youth graduate from high school and leave their home churches, they sort of go off to college and are either never seen again or only seen during, Christmas and Easter and kind of college breaks. But you've kind of been really involved with this project in a really unique way. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was actually, I happened to be home the weekend that it was announced at church. So I learned about it at the same time that the rest of the congregation did. But I knew I wouldn't be able to help with the building, and so it was actually my mom's idea to have myself and my brother be kind of on like the online presence duty, as it were. So he's kind of in charge of the Facebook page, and I'm in charge of making the blog. So the purpose of the blog is I thought that building one house for one family is really nice, and it's a great thing to do. But if we can get kind of like a how-to out there, then perhaps like another church can build a house for another family, and that way we can serve the most people possible.
Are you finding that there are people outside of First Church that are kind of following what you're doing or getting involved in some way?
Well, according to Google Stats, we have some followers in Alaska. I can only hope they are hanging on our every word, but I really don't know that well.
Okay, great. And are you finding that there is kind of some online conversation that's happening, at least among the folks in the community?
Yeah, definitely. With the Facebook page, there's notifications all the time, people commenting and sharing links and stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you're almost done with the house. Is that right?
Yeah.
And how are you planning to move all of these, a house worth of pieces, to Joplin, and when are you planning to do that?
Well, we've just last week we actually set up the house in the basement of the church.
Okay.
Previous to that, it was all in sections.
Okay.
So we set it up, and partly so that we could make sure our work was correct, and also we had a coffee house event on Friday night to kind of highlight the build. So our current construction now that we're going to be working on is the roof sections that we need to put together. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll actually be disassembling it and working on getting that out. We won't actually load it until the day before our truck leaves. So we've got to protect it until we get ready to load it. I wanted to speak about the synergy that we have. You're talking about the community. In our church, we've always had youth group mission trips, and it was pretty much just the youth and a handful of adults. But the last 2 times, it's been pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio between youth and adults. And what I've witnessed at our church is that there's been less of a youth-adult separation that usually happens in a lot of churches. What's happened now, I feel, is that the adults look at the youth as being, capable of doing things, as opposed to just, those youth, and then the youth are actually able to look at the adults and say, they have some, some knowledge and some skill about some things. So I think that working together has really solidified our church family because of that interaction together.
Well, you guys described your various involvements with being in Joplin kind of throughout the years and the ways that you've tried to serve. Your pastor provided me with this book, which shows some photos of what happened during the actual tornado and kind of post the event, all of the relief efforts and everything. Can you describe to me sort of what you saw when you first came, as well as maybe a little bit about kind of the progress through the various sort of returning trips that you've made? What have things looked like to you?
I've only been down there for the first time, and when I went down there, it was just devastated. What we did when we were working was there was a house that was completely in ruins, and we took it from where it was and we just moved it out to the street, the curb, so that these huge bulldozer things could take it away. And I've seen pictures from the other mission trips, even though I wasn't able to go, but they've made huge progress. They've actually built things, and they were saying they were drywalling instead of just cleaning up.
Do you happen to know the person who's going to be receiving the house?
We talked to her on the phone once, and she seems just really grateful to us, especially because we didn't know her beforehand, and how this happened. She called Rebuild Joplin, and then they contacted us.
So what is next for the youth group after this summer and after you put up the house? I mean, that's a huge project. I
think one of the next steps would be to try to spread the word about the project and see if the idea can kind of catch on. And it seems like a strange idea, but it seems pretty doable. A lot of churches are really big places, and they got rooms that could fit a small house in them. So I'm hoping, again with the blog idea, and we're going to take our knowledge with this and use what we've learned and try to help out other churches do the same thing.
Well, thank you again, Eli, Sarah, and Keith, for sharing with us a little bit about the ways that God is working through First United Methodist Church of Elgin these days. I'm Emily McGinley for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.